7-inch, 6, 5, 4, and now 3 e-readers are getting smaller. The race for large screen e-readers seems to be coming full circle as smaller e-readers like the Hisense line and the Xiaomi EINK Palm, and now the Famue. Pronounced Famue in Chinese, comes this interesting ebook reader that fits, well, pretty much anywhere. You can sandwich this thing in your wallet if you wanted to. This features a 3.52-inch screen, 360 by 240 resolution, Bluetooth 5.3, and even fits SD cards as high as 128 gigs. More impressive than that, and taking center stage, is the fact that it is a hi-fi digital audio player that supports several formats from mp3, WAV, and even FLAC. It's equipped with a 3.5mm headphone jack and a speaker as well. It also has an 850 mAh battery, but we're not sure it needs anything bigger as the unknown operating system it works off of feels incredibly lightweight and boots almost instantly. Enough on-paper specs, let's dive in. The Famue is the smallest e-book reader we have ever seen. Not the smallest e-paper device we've ever seen. We've seen some small little tiny panels before, but this is a dedicated ebook reader, and furthermore, it's a DAP, digital audio player. You'll hear that term a lot. Now let us weigh this because we are just thrilled to see how light it is. 88 grams, meaning that it's lighter than the Y-Ben. And to give you some reference, this is a Hisense Touch at 159. Here is my Sony Xperia phone, which is at 233, and an ebook reader, the Kindle Paperwhite 5, which comes in at 210. So for reference, an e-reader is usually around 210. This thing is sub 100. It is extremely small. For some size comparisons now, here is a Kindle, and this is a Paperwhite, and this is a 6.8, and there, that is right there. That is just very telling. Let's keep the train going and put my smartphone right next to it right there, and a Hisense Touch, and you can start to see exactly how small this thing is. It is unbelievably small. In fact, a hand is significantly bigger than it. Now, how is this a DAP? Well, it is supposed to run multiple audio formats, and it has all the equipment seemingly for you. It has a 3.5 right there, and a speaker right there. It's also thicker to accommodate a bigger speaker. Thin devices usually have a little bit more trouble with speakers that come out the bottom, and they usually come out the side or something. You have a return button right there. You have nothing on the top part of this side except you have an SD card slot right there, expandable up to 128, nothing on the top, and the side has volume up and down and power. You have USB-C there as well. Now, something very interesting is we have powered this off. It is not standby. We want to show you how quick this boots. Watch this. Long press. That is a very fast boot, all things considered. It doesn't mess around. That is instant, and that pretty much makes it the fastest booting e-paper device in the game. Now, you all might be wondering, well, it's a reflective screen, much like the EINK Palm, and you're right. Well, why don't you put a screen protector on? We actually did. That's the screen protector, as you can see right there. It's still reflective. You guys are going to have to buy a dedicated 3.52-inch screen film that has matte or anti-glare properties, because even with the screen protector, it's reflective. I mean, what are you protecting? The device is it's the price of a pack of tissues. I mean, I don't even understand what all is going into the protection of this device. I mean, it doesn't have a Wacom layer, it doesn't have note-taking layer, it doesn't even have a glow light. There's no glow light on it, so you're not really preventing too much, and it is kind of an impulsy item. I don't want to play it fast and loose with the dollar amounts, but in the industry, this thing is cheap. It's half the price of an Hisense Touch. I mean, it's very telling. Now, you see all these settings right here, and we're going to go to the settings menu, and we'll explore what we have. We have languages, shutdown settings, date and time, speaker on, off, etc., etc. Now, all of these are very, very superficial. You click on that, you just choose your language. You click on shutdown settings, it just says timing shutdown and power saving shutdown, and then date and time. Everything is just very surface level. There's no dev options, and everything is mostly just a toggle, either on or off. And you do have your volume buttons on the side, and it does work. You can go all the way up to 31 and as low as, well, 0. We keep it at 31 because we've already tested this, and the speakers are pretty awful. The speaker is very, very quiet for something that is a dedicated DAP. Yes, you're supposed to hook it up with a 3.5, which we will be showcasing, so just hold your horses. Tools is very funny, and I must touch on that. There looks like there's all these things in there. There's in fact 4 icons in there, and when you click on it, there's only 3. So I don't understand what that all was, because it leads you to a place where you don't have any additional things and you can't add anything else, because it's not like it's Android or even a known UI or operating system. We don't know what it is, but you do get stopwatch, you do get calendar, and you get calculator, which I suppose is a good thing to have. But all things considered, it's not really that robust and is kind of false advertising, because the lips thing is wrong, which I assume is the recorder, which is over there. No, you can't long press things and move them around, nor can you long press things and get further settings like force stop or clear cache or anything like that. There are a couple glaring issues with this, in that when you click ebook, it says no file, and it must be discoverable elsewhere, because even when you put things in the ebook section, it says no file. Now, that's a little bit silly, because it should be instantly discoverable that you have ebooks when it's one of your choices of things you can do. FM radio is the same thing. Much like with most devices, it requires antenna, which comes from outside sources, so it requires you to have headphones for antenna. So already there's so many of the things on here that just don't do anything, and it's very strange as to why they're center stage. But I mean, it's not like you can go back or forward with any layer, because it's just the one home screen and you can't add to it. You do have English dictionary, which is kind of interesting, although you can't add anything to it. Again, you can go to the dictionary and you can type something in, like you can type in bet. Just as an example, the keyboard is not QWERTY at all. It's just A through Z alphabetically, and there's no real way that you can change it. It's just that. And if you click on something, it does say it. With the smallest hitboxes in the known universe, you can click on those and it will make a noise and tell you what is there, and it's all pre-programmed into it, because there is no Wi-Fi on board. They do have Bluetooth, but as you can see here, there's no Wi-Fi. So with that, what can you do with it? Well, before we even get into ebooks, because it doesn't work, we're gonna go listen to some music, and we will start with the speaker on board and work our way up to the 3.5mm headphone jack, which is not included in the box. You must use your own. If you go to all songs, you can see what is here. Now, you can sideload in FLAC, but not all FLAC files work. For example, this one, we put it in, which is just a FLAC file, and it says decode failed, and then moves on to the next file. And not all FLAC files work properly, and we can confirm this because the same sample B moved is on here that we put on there, and we tested it and it did work. So it just seems to arbitrarily pull what does and doesn't work out of its own choice, and we're not sure why. But we can play an MP3. Not only is that one of the quietest speaker on a dedicated DAP I've heard, that sounded worse than our Sony dictaphone, and even $160 iReaders sound better than this. Doesn't sound like there's any sort of high fidelity coming out of the speaker itself, which is a huge stark contrast from the Hisense Touch, which is a hi-fi digital audio player that has symmetrical speakers on both sides. This thing fills a room, and I understand you have to use a cable. We're going to show that in a second, but we're just saying, if you're planning on buying this and hosting a party and just having 120 gigs of files on here to just play endlessly, think again, because you can barely hear that. And actually, if we move over to a audiobook, it's actually even quieter, and this is a public domain audiobook.
You may say to me. The Count shrugged his broad shoulders. Then I must begin, said he, by binding you both to absolute secrecy for 2
Overall, the assessment of the actual speaker is it's there to really just get an idea of where you are in the particular file, in the particular audiobook, or the inline of your song, which in that regard it's good. It allows you to get your bearings, but it is not meant to be heard because it doesn't have any pleasing attributes. It's not pleasant to the ear to any degree. A lot of the time, the sound is only going to be as good as the speaker you're using. We're using a decent speaker, but I must say that didn't sound any better than anything else we've heard in the past. I'm not sure if there's a whole lot of high fidelity happening here. Obviously, it's hard to listen from this to this through a microphone, through the device that you're using right now listening to this, but we can tell you that none of this is necessarily blowing us away, nor is it even really living up to the title of what this thing is called. Moving on to ebooks, you actually can't click the ebook there. You have to go down to the folder, and then you have to navigate over to the inline route, and then click your ebook. Something you need to note is that it doesn't read EPUB or MOBI or PDF or anything. It just reads text, which is TXT. Now you get virtually no ways to augment your experience. You have page turn, and then you have the top here where you get font size selection, large font, small font, and that's basically it. Then you get delete, you get bookmarks, autoplay setting, which is basically this little play button up top, and no, you can't long press or pinch and zoom or do anything. That is it. That's it. You read your tiny little e-paper books like this. It's a complete letdown that this doesn't read EPUBs, because if they did, this would truly be something to consider. But the fact that it is only text, even though it is labeled as an ebook reader, is very disheartening. It doesn't make it very viable as an ebook reader. In fact, this leans more as a digital audio player, seeing that it has a speaker, 3.5, it's got Bluetooth, it's got volume controls, it plays many formats, more formats than the ebook reader itself, and yet this is called an ebook reader. It begs the question, why did they even call it that? Because it is running an e-paper screen, but the Hisense Touch is running an e-paper screen, and it is not an e-reader. This is a digital audio player. It's not even a phone. It's a DAP. It's an quote-unquote MP3 player. This is more of an MP3 player, but they don't market it as such. So if you're looking to get into this for ebooks, please look elsewhere, because it just simply doesn't even run them. Incredibly lightweight, pocket-friendly, and cheaper than all heck makes this a viable choice when wanting to get into entry-level e-paper. But that's exactly what it is, entry-level. There's virtually no company support within light years, it has some of the lowest resolution we've ever seen, and the fact that it has a speaker on board but sounds dreadful leaves you a little bit wondering as to why they call it a DAP. This unit seems to be the e-reader equivalent of a pack of gum you grab at the checkout when you're paying for your groceries. The company is unknown, the operating system is unknown, the warranty, the support, the returns, it's all just completely unknown. When it all comes down to it, we just want you to know what you're getting into. This isn't necessarily a bad choice, it's just a choice.